Okay, so welcome to Unlabelled and Limitless. As many of you know, something I talk about, I live in New York City, and today is a really cold, wet, dreary, miserable day. I figured, hey, why not sit down and record a few shorter episodes of some different things that I've had on my mind? This is going to be the first episode of a six-part series, and let's dig in. The world wasn't made for us. And this is something that I see online being discussed. I see it in social media being discussed. I hear about it in my own conversations. And there's this kind of really strong kind of belief that for those of us that are neurodivergent, which means that our brains are different from what is considered the norm, we find ourselves struggling in these systems and places and institutions. Theme keeps coming up that this world wasn't made for us. And what I want to talk about today and throughout this series is my perspective on this, which is that the world isn't really made for any of us right now. It's not functioning as it should for most people on a global scale. Maybe they weren't made for us, but what I want to ask is, who were they made for? Let's dig in. I guess let's start here that every time I open my phone lately, I feel like there's another reel about neurodivergence. And that's probably because I do follow a lot of different creators within the autism spectrum, the ADHD spectrum, dyslexia, etc. I don't know, it's just all these reels about what neurodivergence is, right? Somebody explaining ADHD, somebody listing autistic traits, maybe a skit about masking, or a therapist telling another therapist how to treat us. And look, I get it. I've done it as well. We all want to feel seen. We want people to understand what's happening inside of our heads. But I feel like it's become this kind of diagnostic circus out there. And my recent scroll experiences, it's like a tsunami of content about neurodivergence, and somewhere within that flood, I think we're losing the message. Yes, people might see it and think, oh, yeah, I do that. And it may give them that outlet to start seeking or questioning or whatever. But it's also this kind of paradox, right? Because how do you advise businesses to account for some of the things that people are seeing online and judge as being like absolutely ridiculous? Hey, how can I work with somebody that is a liability because they forget these things all the time, or they can't put their milk away, or they can't do whatever? Dumbs down the message a little bit and gets lost. And here at Unlabelled and Limitless, yeah, we talk about neurodivergence all the time too. Of course we do. That's who we are and what we're building, a neuro-inclusive, neuro-aware company. But again, this phrase like keeps popping up. The world wasn't made for us. The world isn't made for us. And honestly, I'm not sure I buy that entirely. Okay, again, let's go to the content that's online, right? People are talking about dopamine, RSD, which is rejection sensitivity dysphoria, and time blindness, like it's Pokemon cards that we're collecting. And a lot of the content is staged, right? I have had to make an effort to sit down today to make this content. One of the exaggerated ADHD traits is the whole cleaning your room meme. And it's really funny because it's very real, but also it's content currency, right? Ability is a commodity, or at least it's become so. In the process, what we're doing is simplifying the real lived experience and condensing it into this 30-second clip of entertainment. The very definition of neurodivergence is complexity, right? It isn't just the surface level behaviors that exist because of these traits that we possess and how they show themselves in different situations and environments and periods in our life. It's condensed into this, oh, people with ADHD have messy bedrooms, and when they try to tidy it up, they get into bed and pull the duvet over their head. A lot of that is because of our cognitive processing, because of our impulsivity, because of our compulsions, because of our all of these other things, but it gets missed, right? And then the impression is, oh, ADHD people have messy bedrooms, and then they'd rather sleep or scroll all day rather than tidy up. There are content creators out there busting that myth and actually trying to educate and explain to people what's going on when those things are happening and when we're missing out on being able to perform simple tasks like keeping a house in order. But there is a lot of emotional baggage that comes with those things. I don't feel break through the noise enough, or those situations don't really tap into the magnitude of how difficult that is and why it's so difficult for some people. And what that kind of does, at least for me and in my view, is it creates awareness without understanding. So visibility is good. It's absolutely necessary. And those of us that are out there doing different things and have those platforms where we can say, hey, I'm here, and hey, I'm doing okay, that's like amazing, because for decades we've been invisible, and many of us have been hiding in the shadows at the edges of our companies and corporations, feeling that imposter syndrome. But what's visibility without nuance? It's like being seen through a funhouse mirror, and it distorts the amount of energy and work and beliefs and stories that we tell ourselves in trying to get ourselves to perform these tasks, and also the shame and guilt and things like that that we feel when we're not able to perform those tasks. We're not a monolith, right? Neurodivergence isn't one experience. It's all the different types of brains, including neurotypical brains, right? That means that we have this kaleidoscope where every single person, as the world turns, has this different vision and experience and view of the world that is super complex and intertwined with all sorts of different kind of data points, right? When the loudest message that's out there is this world wasn't built for us, it paints us, just in my opinion, as outsiders, like we're some kind of glitch in the human code. Technologies move forward, science has moved forward, systems of operation have moved forward, but we're still baked in these institutional systems and beliefs and hierarchies, and those two things are not compatible. So more and more, even those of us that are considered neurotypical are finding it difficult to function in this like weird transistory world that seems to be moving at an incredibly rapid pace, but yet also in other ways feels like time is standing still. Elon Musk is an example of a neurodivergent brain that has created a factory processing system, right? He's built this space company and done all of these different things. Whatever your opinion is of him, he's built these things, right? And for better or worse, some of his employees at some of his companies are very happy with the systems and things like that he's built. And some of them are extremely unhappy, but that's somebody who kind of identifies as being so, like on the spectrum and having these different traits and things that has built a world for people, but it's people that he perceives are like him and that will fit into that world, right? It's really situational and it depends on what world and where you are and what the circumstances are. So I think it's just bigger than saying the world isn't built for us. And it really is more like the world we're building is making people struggle more than they might need to as a society, culturally. We need to work out how we help everybody move with those times, right? And not become overwhelmed and not become kind of stir crazy and finding themselves just absolutely burnt out and depleted and cognitively incapable of things that maybe they were capable of before, whether that's through anxiety or depression or PTSD or whatever it is. So I think it's a bigger problem than just the world isn't made for neurodivergent people. I think it's like the world is only made for a specific few people for them to be able to operate in ways that suit them, right? So the world really isn't built for the majority of us. Divergent people have to bring to the table together people from the different spectrums and people in the neurotypical framework that are suddenly experiencing some of these traits that many of us have lived with is a kind of coming together moment where we can actually lean in and rebuild our institutions or tweak them or change them a little bit so that they work for most of us, if not all of us, right? Because nothing's ever going to work for all of the people, but there's definitely things that we can do to make it work for most of the people, right? And really, if anything wasn't built for us, it's the systems that we created, right? So schools are built for standardization, workplaces are built for obedience, social rules build predictability in our society. And that's architecture. We can renovate it, right? We can change it. We can look at the parts that aren't working and say, hey, why don't we deconstruct this and put this thing in its place without destroying the entire system? Because hey, maybe some things do work well. Maybe that level of standardization for certain people in certain situations is exactly what they need, right? So there's this kind of movement that we can have here where we start talking about what's reasonable. Like a lot of what happens is you might have people on one side that think, oh, hey, we're considered normal or neurotypical or whatever you want to label it as. I'm an average Joe and whatever. So why are those people getting these things, right? But if we kind of pivot that conversation to, do you enjoy living in this world where you never get to slow down anymore and you're constantly on call and you're constantly panicking about where your kids are and tracking them on apps and doing this, that, and the other? And we've built this society of go and fear because we're moving so fast. We need to think about how these systems evolve, right? Right now, just to bring it back to what we were talking about, which is like the content creation and the kind of conversations out there about the world not being built for us, right? We're currently asking social media, which is the most attention exploitative invention ever, to help us regulate attention. Their existence is to capture your attention and keep it there, right? And keep you fixated on that, whether that's through fear or bad news or deficits or all of those things. What we don't need right now are these labels that limit us, which kind of goes with this, like how we have these systems that evolve. Because if we widen the conversation out to the understanding that some of us have lived in these situations our entire lives. Some of us have gone undiagnosed for such a long time and have finally found answers to our questions of why we've never felt normal, or that we fit in, or that we belonged, or that we were capable, or whatever, because of the explosion of social media, because of the theft of our attention, because of the increasing productivity demands and all of those other things combined. What we're finding is a lot more of the population are finding those traits that mirror some of those things we've existed with. They don't know how to cope with it, and they don't understand, the same as we didn't, right? Why they could do this thing forever, and now all of a sudden their skills are no longer needed, or they're not able to keep up with the demand of their role, or whatever it is. So let's start really looking beyond those labels and think about it on a wider impact, and ask for accommodations, push for change. We always need to be doing that in every area of inclusion and in every corner of society. Inclusivity isn't like bubble wrapping the world. It's about building better balance in our systems and understanding the difference between personal responsibility and systemic compassion. No, the world isn't made for us, but it's not really made for them either. The world just is right now, and maybe our job isn't necessarily to remove the chaos, but to learn how to dance inside of it. I think in the world we find ourselves in right now, where consumer spending is down, layoffs are up, people that have had these long and successful and storied careers with great performance reviews being laid off, and wondering, you know, what's next? I gave my life to this thing, this product, this company, these people. What is there that's next for me, right? And what's next for all of us is dancing inside of this system, right? It's saying, we tried it that way and it didn't work for most of us, because none of us are safe from whatever this world is that's being created that seems to be running away at a rapid pace. What we do have is this ability right now, and people who can reshape these systems, that can use that experience and turn it outwards to help us create a better world of work and better institutions and better systems in schools that don't force us into this institutionalized way of being, or workplaces, but that actually allows us to show up and be ourselves and do those things. Okay, so on that note, this is Unlabelled and Limitless. I'm Lois Bainham, and I want to thank you for thinking out loud with me today. You can follow us on Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, or you can join our Patreon and Discord, where we can get messy, curious, and human together. And if this episode resonated with you, please feel free to share it with somebody who's learning to dance in the chaos too. Thank you.